So the last episode that we did, we talked a lot about the special session that I think now happened 3 weeks ago. We specifically were talking about the changes or the proposed changes to the Freedom of Information Act that failed, and then there were new changes. And so we talked with State Representative Wooten about those and what he thought the retroactive clause meant or what it didn't mean. And so that was very helpful. But I thought I would reach out to one of the key players behind the scenes, from what I can tell, somebody whose approval meant a lot in terms of whether or not the FOIA bill that did pass, whether it was going to fail or pass. Joey McCutchen had a lot to do with that. His opinion is very well respected by those when it comes to the access of information, from the government, and what a journalist like me is going to have access to, or what you out there are going to have access to. So Joey McCutchen actually joins us now. He is an attorney and an expert on these issues. Joey, welcome to Conservative Arkansas Media, sir.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. So from where you sit, let's talk about what we did get. From where you sit, are you pleased with the changes to the Freedom of Information Act that we did get?
I can't say that I'm certainly from what it could have been, which would have gutted FOIA from a records standpoint. It was an improvement, but my concern is that I want to know when public dollars are being spent, and I want to know that I can go get that information and how much is being spent, and who's riding on government planes and all those types of things. So, okay. From that standpoint, I don't think that that law does a lot for those two things. And
okay, well, so then let's talk about maybe like an alternate universe about how bad it could have been. Okay, so what was almost done to the freedom of people to have access to information of the government? I mean, it was. Is it correct to say that it was an attempt to gut the Freedom of Information Act?
From my point of view, it's absolutely correct. That's a correct characterization, and not using hyperbole, as some would say that folks who fought against this were trying to do. But when you allow the huge number of government agencies, state agencies, commissions, boards, and you're going to tell the people that they can't access those records while the sausage are being made, and you can only see the final product, that would gut for you. And then you take it a step further and you say, okay, if we CC our government lawyer, then the public's not going to get to see those records. We say that we anticipate litigation. You're not going to get to see those records. Those two provisions, if someone's trying to keep the government's business secret, then those two provisions would go a long way to gutting our ability to get records on a state level. And it would give the governor an immense amount of power. And I think that's something that our legislature should probably take into consideration, even though we have a popular governor.
What were your thoughts about the parts of the bill that we did get that attempted to address the security issue surrounding Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and her family? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think we all start from the standpoint that we want to protect Governor Sanders and her family and others, but I'm not sure. I've never been convinced that that's what this was all about. I think from my point of view, I think it's a smokescreen, and I think this was all about what started in the 2023 general session when Representative David Ray trotted out the same type of record gutting bill that would gut FOIA, and the legislature voted it down. You got to ask yourself, what's the emergency here? we've been abiding by this law for quite some time. This is no emergency. I tend to view it as politics, and but FOIA is not liberal, and it's not conservative, and it's not Republican, and it's not Democrat. It at its foundation, it's about our right to know, and therefore our freedom. And when we start chipping away at it, or under whether it's Representative Ray's bill or the governor's, or whoever's bill it was in the special session, the governor obviously was behind it. To me, it's a dangerous situation, and our republic is not safe.
Okay, so what about the argument? And just to be clear, and I said this last week, as a journalist, who in people in my profession, we kind of thrive off of the idea of being able to use a Freedom of Information Act request to get information, to report on it, to speak truth to power, and that sort of thing. So any change to the FOIA, I wasn't for, at least in the original form of the bill, kind of made the hairs stand up on the back of my neck and that sort of thing. But what about the argument that kind of came out? I don't know when the argument came out. The first I saw it was kind of in the middle of the debate of the special session, when things were not going as smoothly as anticipated. The House wasn't passing the rule change and that sort of thing. And so one of the arguments was that when the state is in litigation, okay, and you're an attorney, and so I really want your thoughts on this, that the state's in litigation trying to defend, let's say, a controversial law. Let's say it's a law in the future, okay, let's say that the next legislative session, the legislature succeeds in, making transing children, putting it under child abuse statutes. Okay, that's going to be a huge legislative battle. I keep talking about it. Let's say they succeed, and obviously the left's going to challenge that. And so in the court, so their argument is that the Freedom of Information Act was so liberal that basically leftist attorneys would be able to steal or see the legal strategies of the Attorney General's office when they're trying to defend controversial pieces of legislation. Is that true? Is that a danger? And if so, was this the right remedy for that? Obviously, I know you didn't support the bill, but is there a right remedy for it if it's true?
Well, the way I see it is it's not like you're dealing with a private lawyer versus a private lawyer, and you're dealing with the government, and so though there's a distinction. To me, there's a clear distinction, and that the people should be able to see that. And you throw out that example, but in 15 years, it's going to be another example that's going to cut against us conservatives. And so you can't say liberal versus conservative.
Right. So in my example, I'm citing the leftist attorney. You're right. To your point, we do need to think about living under the government, when conservatives potentially are not in control. So I see your point. So then it would be your position then that because it's like the Office of the Attorney General, that the privacy protections of legal strategies and things like that just aren't going to apply to a government office like that. I mean, that's your belief, right?
It is my belief. I think that's the way it should be, because you're dealing with the government. And again, it's all in the way these bills. It's the devil's in the details, right? I mean, and in anticipation of litigation, you can make that pretty broad if you want to, and so you've got to look at the wording. And when these bills hit the legislature, they're broad enough for a Mack truck to drive through, and that's concerning. And you can take a good, smart government lawyer and twist those words, and then we haven't even talked about the attorney fee provision that they wanted to make so onerous that it would have a chilling effect on the public. You got to ask yourself, why are they? Why should we have to not only prevail, substantially prevail, but also have to show bad faith on the part of government? Uh, and then you basically have lawyers who won't get involved in these cases, unlike me, who has taken a hours upon hours doing free work, uh, which I'm glad to do that because I believe in FOIA. But to create a definition that is, I've got to not only win but show bad faith, or show that it was they didn't give us the records. For example, uh, they gave them to us. It wasn't arbitrary. Uh, that's so then that's the other way. There's no teeth in the law, and so people won't bring lawsuits to enforce their rights. And to me, that's just wrong.